Welcome back. China and Norway have renewed relations after 6 years, but Norway isn't the only nation looking to China for greater partnership. Still with us, Shi Zhiqin is Director of the China-EU Relations at the Carnegie Tsinghua Center for Global Policy. Øystein Tunsjø is a professor at the Norwegian Institute of Defense Studies. And joining us for this part of the program, Tilman Pradt is a China-EU relations researcher and author of the new book, China's New Foreign Policy. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Tilman, let me start with you. The European Union appears to be at some kind of crossroads right now. We've had Brexit and we have other nations in the EU, other member states, which are questioning their membership in that group. Yet we have a country like Norway, which is not a member of the EU, but it's transitioning. It's moving more towards a developing country like China. What makes China so attractive?
Well, first of all, you're correct in your observation that EU and China relationship is steadily improving and increasing. Trade numbers are increasing already from a high number on, and there's still room for further progress. When you name the Brexit as a factor, a driver for stronger Britain-China relations, for example, I don't think so. I see that in the past, Britain, and especially the City of London, has benefited much from its free access to the European single market. So international companies with an office branch in London were able to handle all of their financial transactions and their trade with the European country members from their hub in London. So as a consequence of Brexit, this free access to the European single market will decrease. And so the attractiveness of Britain as a location for Chinese companies will decrease. So you see, I've turned around your question a little bit. China's attractiveness is probably increasing, especially for Britain, which has to look for other markets, other partners, since it will be somehow decrease its access to the European market. And there's always a chance for higher cooperation, but I see also, especially as a consequence of Brexit, problems for this single market Britain.
Dr. Shi, let's look at it from the Chinese point of view. As I mentioned, there is a certain degree of uncertainty in Europe over the future direction of the EU, but China has increased its investments in Europe. What makes these European partnerships so attractive for China?
So I think in Chinese foreign policy, that we in the past we emphasized very a lot about the great power relations. So I think EU is as one of the great powers. So it has been the Chinese the top agenda. In the previous decade, China and EU has developed a very good relations. From a partnership to a comprehensive partnership and also to a strategic partnership. I think and China and EU has established all kinds of mechanisms. We call the three pillars. One is the high-level dialogue, strategic dialogue, and also economic dialogue and people-to-people exchange. I think in the past decade, the China and EU has developed very stable and amateur relations. I think politically, I think that EU plays a very influential role in the world, and economically, so EU is one of the large market for China. And in terms of trade, EU is the first trade partner of China, and China is the second trade partner of EU. So every day we have a large amount of the trade volumes. So yeah, both exports and imports is in a steady increase, and also in people to people, in Chinese people, yeah, we have in our mind, I think EU is a very important partner.
So, Dr. Shi, how can China be a partner to these European countries as they face this wide range of challenges?
Even now, as we know that EU has a lot of problems in recent years. Since 2009, we have a euro crisis. Then we have the terrorist attack. Also, we have the poverty rise, and even today in 2016 there is a Brexit. Anyway, since China started its open policy, we will try to import the technology, the know-how, the best management from Europe. Now, even even EU has difficulty. Chinese government has always been supportive of EU integration. We hope a stable and prosperous, then even a united Europe. And now, even if they have difficulties, more and more Chinese investment, more and more Chinese businessmen began to have their invest in the European companies. Investing in, invest into company is a very good way to get to the access to their market. I think both EU and China, the market is very, very important, and also China benefits a lot from EU in the previous decades.
Øystein, let's look at the Nordic countries. We had these strained relations between Norway and China. And I've got two parts to this question. On the one hand, did that affect the entire Nordic region, the breaking off of relations between Norway and China? And now that these relations have been restored, has that improved the relationship between China and the entire region?
I think I don't think you can see the Nordic countries as one coherent unit, not even the EU, of course. I think they all have separate interests, and therefore they were not as affected by the sort of diplomatic freeze in the relationship between China and Norway. They were having business as usual when you go to Finland or Denmark or Sweden. So I don't see that really affecting the Nordic countries. But I find it very interesting, my colleagues, what they have been saying. The developments in Europe are important for China, and I think this has been underemphasized. I think we're seeing more tension in US-China relations. We're seeing more tension in China's relationship with its neighbors, such as Japan and South Korea. And I think then, in that sort of broader context, it's important for China to have good relations with Europe and European countries. And I think the normalization of diplomatic relationship between China and Norway should be viewed in that broader context.
Tilman, these tensions that Øystein has just been talking about, the tensions between the United States and China, or between China and its neighbors, as he points out, does that, in a sense, actually offer more opportunities for China to expand its relationship with the countries of the European Union?
Well, it could. It could be an alternative when President Trump is implementing a China policy, judging from his recent statement, which is more confrontational. And this would maybe push China and Europe closer together in economic terms. But you never know. In international relations, there's always a possibility that other factors are stronger. In this sense, it could be that the EU as a whole, or single member states, bandwagon with the US and join into a more critic China stance. And this could also infect economic relations between the single European countries and China, or the EU as a whole. An example could be, also it's another level of escalation, but what happened with EU-Russia economic cooperation after the intervention in the Crimea. So, but that said, this is the political level. And on the more economic, purely economic level, I see huge opportunities for deepening economic cooperation, not last because of the improving infrastructural connection, as a keyword, One Belt, One Road initiative to deepen economic exchange between China and the European Union. And so politics will always have its influence, but there are also strong factors from the economic sector which will also play its role.
Dr. Tunsjø, I want to get back to something that Tilman was talking about earlier, and that is the relationship between China and Britain. We have the British who are now going to be leaving the European Union. So How do you see the relationship between Britain and China go? What direction is that going to take?
So before before the referendum, the UK's Brexit referendum, I think we try to regard the UK as part of the EU. But next year, I mean, in the March, they will try to launch the Brexit agenda. I think we will try to treat EU and UK in a different way. I think in foreign policy, we try to treat every members in an equal way. So we have a very good normal relation with the EU, and also we hope to have a very good relations with UK. And even UK inside EU, we have very good relations with UK. Even inside the European Union, maybe we have more common. Like the free trade. In this area, within the EU, we have a market economy status quo. In this area, I think UK is supportive of China's position. And during the David Cameron as the Prime Minister, and also he proposed that he will try to have UK as the most supportive partner in the West. And also in October of 2015, when Chinese President paid his visit to UK, we tried proposed. We are both UK and China entering in a golden area. After the referendum, when Theresa May came to power, maybe there is a little change about the hesitation about the agreement we had, especially the Hinkley Point nuclear project. But when China showed is a serious concern and the agreement was approved, I think the new case, the new administration, the new prime minister, after a halt, they start to reconsider China's importance with UK. And I think even after Brexit, I think the UK to somewhat is a little isolated. I think UK needed to have a normal, even a better relation with China. And I think maybe this is the hope from UK and China.
Øystein, I have one final question, and that is looking at the restoration of relations between China and Norway. How has that been received in Norway? Is it widely supported?
Yeah, I think in many ways it has, especially, of course, in the business community. There are those also critical of the kind of statement that was published. But in general, I think most people are positive that after 6 years of this diplomatic freeze that we are going back to normal diplomatic relations. And I think this is also very important. It's important in order to address many of the issues that we have in common interest with when it comes to not just the bilateral relationship with China, but I pointed to that China also need a good relationship with the European countries, and this is because of broader trends, because of anti-globalization trend. So, looking into free trade agreements, whether it's bilateral with Norway or more upholding the principles of free trade, which have benefited Norway, China, but also other European countries, is important. There is also a trend against more skepticism in the incoming U.S. administration about climate changes. Again, I think it's important to engage China on issues about climate change and hold on to these agreements that were signed in Paris. So on many different aspects, finally I would point to UN. Upholding the United Nations as a sort of important player in international security affairs is very important. So Norway has a lot of opportunities now. In the past, we collaborated with China on UN peacekeeping in the Gulf of Aden, in escort missions against anti-piracy there, and also in removing and destroying chemical weapons in Syria. So I think in all these different aspects, there is a new opportunity now to engage China, and I think most people in Norway see this as positive.
Okay, and that's where we have to leave it. Thanks to all of you for joining us.